My daughter-in-law banned me from her wedding. Her happy day ended right there. At 67, all I wanted was to see my son marry the woman he loved. But when I arrived at the venue, security told me I wasn't on the guest list. The bride, my daughter-in-law, had banned me, said I was an embarrassment. So I stood outside in my best dress and smiled. Because what she didn't know? That florist she screamed at last week? My niece, the wedding planner, I funded her startup. And the venue? Bought it last month, quietly. So when they asked if they should continue, I said, no, shut it down. And that was the start of her unforgettable wedding day. If you think I did the right thing, go comment. Don't mess with Mom. Before we begin, don't forget to subscribe and leave a comment if you've ever been disrespected by someone you once welcomed like family. Because this story, it's not just about betrayal. It's about what happens when people forget who really made the wedding possible. And if you think I did the right thing by the end of this, go ahead and comment, "Don't mess with Mom." My name is Eleanor Watson. I'm 67 years old, and I raised my son Marcus as a single mother after his father passed away from a worksite accident when Marcus was just 3. I worked 2 jobs, sometimes 3, just to keep a roof over our heads and food on the table. Everything I built for him. He was my whole world. When he brought Brittany home for the first time, I did what any hopeful mother would do. I smiled, made her favorite dessert, and welcomed her in. She was pretty, ambitious, and knew how to turn on the charm. But behind that charm, I saw something else. Entitlement. A need to control every room she walked into. Still, I kept my mouth shut. I thought maybe I was just being protective. I bought them their first car when Marcus landed his first job. I helped with the down payment on their home. And when Brittany started her boutique business, guess who co-signed the small business loan? Me. But the moment the wedding planning began, something changed. At first, it was little things. Brittany forgetting to loop me into the group chats, choosing a venue hours away without asking if I could make the trip, or having just immediate family on the tasting invite, excluding me, of course. I brushed it off, told myself not to make a fuss. After all, this was Marcus's big day, not mine. But when I asked about my role in the ceremony, whether I'd be giving a speech, walking down the aisle, or even just being seated in the front, Brittany smiled sweetly and said, "Oh, we're keeping things modern. We don't want too many traditions, less drama that way." Still, I made no scene. I smiled, nodded, and wrote another check for the flowers, even though my name wasn't listed as a host on the invitation. Even though no one consulted me on the guest list. Then came the final blow. I arrived at the venue, dressed in a soft blue gown I'd spent weeks finding. I even had my late husband's wedding band on a chain around my neck just to feel like he was there. But when I reached the entrance, the usher paused. "I'm sorry, ma'am," he said, squinting at his clipboard. "You're not on the guest list." I blinked. "Excuse me?" He pointed again. "Eleanor Watson, right? I don't see you listed here. Can you wait off to the side?" That's when I saw Brittany through the open door, laughing with her bridesmaids. She turned, saw me, and immediately stiffened. Then she walked over, perfect makeup, blinding smile, and said loud enough for everyone nearby to hear, "Oh, I thought Marcus told you. We decided to keep things small. Just the people who are part of our future." She looked me up and down like I was some caterer who'd wandered into the wrong section. I hope you understand. This day is about us. I stood there, humiliated, alone. My own son nowhere in sight, security edging closer. But I didn't cry. I smiled, and I walked away. Because what Brittany didn't know was that I had received a call the week before, from the florist she screamed at over peonies, from the wedding planner she humiliated during rehearsal, and from the venue manager who'd nearly quit after a tirade about seating charts. I didn't just fund the wedding. I owned the venue, quietly bought the property 6 months earlier as an investment. I'd kept it a surprise. But now it was going to be my move. That night, I called the venue team, and I made some adjustments. Because when someone tries to erase you from a moment you built, You don't get mad. You get control back. If you think I did the right thing by walking away with my dignity and planning what came next, go comment, "Don't mess with Mom," and hit that subscribe button, because the wedding day wasn't over yet, not even close. The next morning, the wedding made local headlines, not because of the couple, but because of the venue. "Bride cancels on her own wedding. Guests left waiting in the rain," read one outlet. "Bridal meltdown at Garden Vista," another claimed. You see, I hadn't just walked away the day before. I had walked straight into my lawyer's office, because while Brittany had thought the wedding was hers, the fine print on the venue's ownership papers said otherwise. I'd purchased the estate through a private LLC just months before. No fanfare, no announcement, just one signature. And when I received word that Brittany had spoken to the staff like dirt, that she was planning to remove the vintage fountain I'd installed to make room for a flower wall and champagne tower, I knew it was time. So I made a call. At 9 a.m. sharp, just hours before the ceremony, the estate manager walked into the bridal suite and handed Brittany a notice. It stated, in legal terms she could barely comprehend, that the property had been leased under false representation. The contract was voided. Immediate evacuation was required. Brittany screamed. Marcus tried to argue, but there were no arguments left to make. They didn't know I was watching from the edge of the garden in my car, just behind a hedge. She threw her bouquet at the wall. He yelled at the staff, and guests began arriving, confused by the roped-off entrance and locked gate. Brittany had spent $30,000 decorating a venue she didn't have the right to use anymore. Meanwhile, I called a second number. Within 30 minutes, the truck arrived. All flowers, chairs, catering trays, and table decor were packed up and returned to the vendors who had called me crying after working with her. I didn't do it to be spiteful. I did it to send a message. You don't erase someone's place in your life and expect to keep what they gave you. While chaos rained down on their Pinterest perfect dream day, I sat in my kitchen, sipping tea. Helen, my best friend of 30 years, sat across from me with a knowing smile. "They just put up a statement online," she said, holding out her phone. Brittany's caption read, "Due to unforeseen circumstances, our wedding has been postponed. We're grateful for your understanding during this difficult time." Underneath, someone had already commented, "Wasn't that your MIL's venue?" Another, "Karma doesn't miss." And one that made me pause. "You invited everyone but the woman who paid for your life?" I didn't need to clap back. The internet was doing it for me. 3 days later, Marcus finally called. His voice was tired, cold. "Mom, I need to talk to you." "Now you remember I exist?" I replied. He sighed. "Brittany's been crying nonstop. She says you embarrassed her." I laughed. She embarrassed herself. He went quiet. Then, "We need help. She maxed out 3 credit cards for the wedding. And now that it's canceled, well, the vendors want refunds." "Oh? And you came to me, the woman who wasn't even worth a seat near the cake." His tone changed. "Mom, please, we'll lose the house." For a second, I thought of that little boy I raised, the one who used to bring me daisies from the park. Then I remembered the man who stood silently as his bride humiliated me at the door of a venue I paid for. "I'll give you one thing," I said slowly. "A lesson." He didn't speak. You don't disrespect the hands that build your future, because eventually, those hands stop building, and they start taking things apart. He whispered, "So that's it?" "That's it." He hung up. That week, I received a handwritten letter from Brittany's mother, apologizing. She said she hadn't known what Brittany did, that she was ashamed, that her daughter's obsession with appearances had poisoned the family. The envelope also included a photo from the engagement party, a picture of me, Marcus, and Brittany before the mask slipped, before the cold looks and fake smiles, back when I believed we were all just people trying to make something work. I looked at it for a while, then I slid it into a drawer. The next time I saw Brittany and Marcus was at the town's charity gala. I had been invited to speak about legacy building and intergenerational wealth. They were seated in the back. When I walked onto the stage and looked out, I didn't feel bitter. I felt free. Because I had protected something more important than pride. I had protected my peace. And I had reminded them both that legacy isn't just about what you give. It's about who's still standing when everything else falls. If you think I did the right thing by standing up for myself and taking back the power they tried to steal, go comment, "Don't mess with Mom." And don't forget, sometimes silence is the loudest revenge. 2 weeks passed after the wedding. That wasn't. And just when I thought they'd stay away for good, Marcus showed up. Alone. No calls, no warning. Just standing on my porch in jeans and the same worn leather jacket he used to wear in college. For a moment, he looked like the son I used to know. The one who used to kiss my cheek before leaving for class. The one who built forts in the living room and cried during Pixar movies. But when I opened the door, I didn't smile. "Can I come in?" he asked, voice small. I nodded and stepped aside. He didn't head for the living room. He went straight to the kitchen, like muscle memory. Like maybe a part of him thought he could rewind time by choosing the familiar seat at the island, near the sugar jar I'd never moved. "I brought something," he said, pulling a small velvet box from his coat. It wasn't jewelry. It was my grandmother's locket. The one he said he lost a year ago while helping Brittany organize my old things. "I found it," he said, "in one of our old boxes. I thought, you should have it." I didn't take it right away, because I saw something in his eyes. Guilt, yes, but also fear. They'd hit rock bottom. Marcus wasn't here to repair. He was here because there was nowhere else to go. Still, I took the locket and placed it on the counter. "I read the comments," he said suddenly. "On the venue's page, on the articles. Everyone thinks we're monsters." I raised an eyebrow. "They're not wrong," he flinched. "Brittany's suing one of the wedding bloggers for defamation," he continued. "She says she can't go anywhere without people whispering." "She should have thought of that before turning her life into a performance," I replied. "Actions have consequences." He lowered his head. "She left." That caught me off guard. "She said I humiliated her by not defending her. Said I let you win." I exhaled slowly. This was never a competition, Marcus. This was family, and she treated it like reality TV. He looked up. "I know. I was just scared of losing her, of losing everything." I leaned forward. "You lost me long before that wedding." Silence wrapped the room. Then he said something I didn't expect. "I want to make it right." "I doubt you can," I said softly. "But you can start." He blinked. "How?" I stood and grabbed a folder from the drawer. "This is a financial literacy curriculum I created years ago when we partnered with underprivileged communities. I'm relaunching it. As a nonprofit, I'm building something again, something that matters. And if you want to help, you start from the bottom. No name on the board, no press, just work." He stared at the folder like it was a puzzle he didn't know how to solve. "Are you serious?" "Dead serious," I said. "I'm not giving you money. I'm giving you purpose. Maybe that's what you needed all along." A week later, he showed up for orientation, in jeans and a borrowed laptop. No fanfare, no arrogance, just my son, trying to remember who he used to be. The first few months weren't easy. Some of the other volunteers recognized him from the headlines. Whispers followed him like shadows. But he kept showing up. He stocked shelves, cleaned offices, took phone calls from angry donors who didn't believe we needed elder financial abuse prevention. And one day, I watched him give a talk to a room full of teenagers. He told them about the wedding, the manipulation, the regret. "I hurt my mother," he said, voice steady, "because I thought money meant power, but it doesn't. Not when it costs you everything that matters." There wasn't a dry eye in the room, especially mine. As months passed, people started calling us a redemption story. I didn't correct them. Let them say what they want. What mattered was the work. Brittany? She started dating again. I heard she tried launching a YouTube channel about narcissistic mothers-in-law. It flopped. Eventually, she left town. And for the first time in a long time, peace stayed in my home for more than just a few days. One evening, Marcus and I sat on the porch. He handed me a notebook, filled with handwritten curriculum edits, budget suggestions, and notes from volunteers. "I want to help build this for real," he said. "Not for me, for you." I didn't say anything, just reached over and held his hand. Forgiveness isn't a door you walk through once. It's a hallway, long, winding, and sometimes filled with silence. But if both people walk it side by side, maybe, just maybe, it leads somewhere better. So here's what I'll leave you with. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you're too old to take control. Don't let them guilt you into silence or exile you from your own legacy. If you've built something, protect it. If you've loved someone and they weaponize that love, remember, you can still write the ending. Not them, you. Because sometimes, the best revenge isn't rage, it's rebuilding. If you think I did the right thing by standing tall, protecting what I built, and reclaiming my voice, go comment, "You don't erase Mom." And remember, your peace, your power, your story, they're yours to own. No one else gets to hold the pen. The courtroom was silent when the judge read the verdict. Guilty on all counts. Brittany didn't cry. She didn't even flinch. She just sat there, her lipstick smudged, her designer suit wrinkled, staring straight ahead like she couldn't believe her story had finally come to an end. Marcus. He didn't look at her. He couldn't. His hands were trembling in his lap, eyes red from nights without sleep. He hadn't been charged. He had agreed to cooperate once the truth came to light. But betrayal leaves its own kind of sentence, and Marcus was serving it in full. The prosecutors laid it all bare. Brittany's real name, the prior identity change, the multiple marriages under suspicious financial circumstances, and finally, attempted fraud against the estate of Thomas Watson, my late husband. My husband's foresight had saved me, and now it had saved our family from complete collapse. When it was over, I stepped outside the courthouse into the crisp fall air. Reporters shouted questions, microphones were shoved in my face, but I kept walking, head high. Justice didn't need a speech, it needed peace. 2 weeks later, I returned to the garden, the same one Brittany had banned me from, the one where I'd stood on the edge of her picture-perfect wedding and smiled, knowing the real celebration was coming. Now, it was just me, a book, and the wind rustling through autumn leaves. Marcus called that afternoon. I let it ring twice before picking up. "Mom, can I come over?" He didn't come empty-handed. He brought my favorite pie, pecan, from the bakery near our old house, and a photograph. It was us. Me, him, and Thomas. Taken when he was just 5, at a beach, buckets of sand around us and sunlight in our hair. "I found this in one of the old boxes," he said, voice cracking. "I don't even remember that day. But I want to." We sat on the porch for hours. He apologized. Not once, but over and over again. Each word heavy, not with excuses, but with shame. He admitted that he'd turned a blind eye, that Brittany had convinced him I was trying to control his life, that I was standing in the way of his happiness, that somehow cutting me out had felt like growing up. "I thought I was protecting her," he whispered, "but I should have been protecting you." "I never needed protection," I said gently, "just honesty." He looked at me then, really looked, and for the first time since he was a boy, I saw something in his eyes that I thought was gone. Gratitude. We rebuilt slowly. He helped me plant new rose bushes in the yard. We cooked Sunday dinners again. He came to book club nights with Helen and the others, offering to set up chairs and pour wine. The old wounds didn't vanish, but they stopped bleeding. As for Brittany, her sentencing was scheduled for the following month. Her lawyers had tried to spin it, paint her as misunderstood, confused, traumatized by a difficult childhood. But the paper trail, the victims from her past, and the cold calculation in her own messages left little room for doubt. She would be going away for a long time. Helen and I toasted that night, not to revenge, not even to victory, to survival, to the quiet strength it takes to smile through betrayal, to stay silent until your voice can be a thunderclap, and then to speak with fire. I made a few changes in my life after that. sold the old house, bought a cottage near the water, just like Thomas and I used to dream of. I started volunteering again, this time helping elderly women recognize the warning signs of financial abuse. I gave speeches. I shared my story. I received letters from women around the world, women who'd been gaslit, cornered, pushed out of their own homes and hearts by the very people they'd raised. One letter I'll never forget. It came from a woman named Teresa. Her daughter had tricked her into signing over property rights, then evicted her from her own home. "Your story helped me fight back," she wrote. "For the first time in years, I feel seen." That letter now sits framed in my new study. A reminder that the truth, when spoken at the right time, is a weapon no lie can withstand. Marcus visits often now. He still carries guilt, and maybe he always will. But he's building something new, earning back trust, not demanding it. And me? I sit by the window most mornings, tea in hand, peace in my bones. The woman who was once banished to the kitchen has now rebuilt her own palace of truth. Because some stories don't end with weddings, or verdicts, or tears. They end with a woman choosing herself, and writing the final chapter on her terms. If you think I did the right thing by standing my ground, go comment, "Never mess with Mom." And if someone you trusted ever tried to erase you from your own life, just remember, the truth always finds its voice. Keep watching, keep speaking, keep rising.